Hmm.
And so where I'm going with this is both, you and I do root cause type of medicine work. And I know that's a totally horribly overplayed term, but when it comes to what we mean by that, it's really looking at the body from a lens of one, it's very individualistic. So everybody has their own genetic blueprint, that we all have different patterns or scenarios that are contributing to the physiological imbalances in our body. And those also correlate with spiritual and emotional imbalances. And then also looking at from the perspective of, a more individualized, but also customized approach, which you and I not only as consumers of our own health journeys have found the sweet spot, right? Fair
Yeah,
enough? Yeah.
absolutely. Yes.
Welcome to the Resiliency Method, the truth about healing. I'm Dr. Erika, and we are here to uncover the root causes keeping you stuck. Together, we'll restore your energy, your focus, and your resiliency so you can finally heal, regenerate, and feel truly alive again.
Imagine being a Division I athlete, an aerospace engineer working on NASA's Artemis program, and your body starts failing you. Not slowly, but completely. 175 allergens, leaky gut, chronic pain, total exhaustion. That was Amanda Smith's reality. And today on the Resiliency Method, the Truth About Healing podcast, she joins me to reveal why the most educated, high performing people are often the ones most trapped by a broken healthcare system, and the exact framework she uses to help clients finally break free and build real lasting resilience. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Amanda Smith. Today's episode is with our health and wellness coach, Amanda Smith. She comes from a very unique background for us. She comes from the engineering side of the world. She's an aerospace engineer, worked as a NASA engineer for many years. And so Amanda is really good at analyzing complex systems. And what better system do we have that is super complex than the human body itself? But I think she's got a really interesting experience and story. So I want to start off today's episode by getting into a little bit more in depth about her. But she's a former competitive athlete. She learned how to read the body when it was under pressure. She's also medical intuitive, and she's learned how to interpret the energy patterns and root causes that mainstream science are often overlooking. And she can combine all three of these: science, spirit, and the somatic intelligence to help others decode their sensitivity, heal deeply, and live in alignment with their cosmic nature. Let's get going. Let's talk to Amanda Smith today. Amanda, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you here.
Oh,
Um, I know that I really want to delve into, I'm going to give you the floor here in a second because I want to get into your story. It's so unique. It's such a interesting experience that you've had, I know, on your own health journey, but then also in the context of changing a major profession. So I want to turn over to you to tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Dr. Erika, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm stoked to be here. It's what a journey, right? Going
Yeah.
from Division I athlete my entire childhood essentially, to engineering student, which combining those two things was absolutely insane. Tons of
Yeah.
pressure. And then actually becoming a mechanical and aerospace engineer, working on a bunch of NASA projects and programs, including Artemis, which is about to launch in February. I know we're recording this and this will go out after that, but hopefully it will have
You
launched by
have
then.
roots that go back to Artemis. Awesome. Very cool.
Yes. And then becoming a health and wellness coach for simplicity. Medical intuitive is usually begs questions. What in the world is a medical intuitive? But yeah, this journey has been a wild ride, and
Mm.
definitely a big shift from being an engineer to helping people with their health. And I had a coach, Melissa Seaman, my business coach, help me really piece it all together and be able to make the leap into this. She said, Amanda, if you think about everything that you've done in your life, it's involved the body. I've had
Interesting.
my own health issues and injuries and continue to have some of those things.
Mhm.
But the whole time I've been working on understanding the body and understanding how the brain works with the body. And then, of course, the somatic side, the nervous system side of understanding the body. And I've done all of my own research to take me down this rabbit hole.
Yeah. And what a rabbit hole it can be, right? There's so much complexity to the human body in and of itself. The study of the human body can get overwhelming and intense. And we're going to talk in a few minutes, I think, about the psychology of some of the healthcare consumers out there today and what they're facing and what they're looking at, the angle. But expand on that a little bit more too, from your perspective, your own health journey.
So, as a Division 1 athlete, I had 2 knee surgeries, so I really started to dive into understanding joints and how joints worked. And
Mhm.
from there, I made the leap into becoming a yoga instructor. You and I went into yoga teacher training
That's where
together.
we met. Yeah, was that over what did we decide? That was like 13 years ago? Wasn't that just recently?
2009 to 2010, so 16, 15,
16
16 years.
years ago.
Yeah,
Amazing.
right, right,
We
and
both
that
took different paths during that little phase, but came back together and got reacquainted, I don't know, was it a year ago or so? 2 years ago?
2 years, about 2 years
Yeah,
ago now. Yeah,
same.
that that was a rabbit hole in and of itself when it came to understanding the body and understanding how
Mhm.
to, use breath with the body and understanding how the mind plays into the body, and that dove me down the rabbit hole with Louise Hay, which, You Can Heal Your Body was my
Yes,
favorite book
yeah,
for the longest
yeah.
time, and
Very good.
yeah, that the psychology of things meets the
Mhm.
body and how those 2 interplay with each other, and that led me into being a medical intuitive and actually owning it because I was always a medical intuitive.
Mhm. Mhm.
I I I was
You're
always
always
willing to
intuitive
help.
too. Do you next go on to your story of and how you developed your intuition?
Oh, man. I was always
What's your
intuitive.
intuition?
I feel like even as a kid, I was one of those highly sensitive people. I was one of those
Mhm.
people who took in all the information that was coming into me and using it to my advantage and,
Mhm.
being a bit of a brainiac. I
Mhm.
had no problem distilling like, okay, this person is having this issue and it's likely because they're having, rage issues or anger issues. So
Mhm.
those were things that I was constantly taking in as a kid. And then
Mhm.
going into being an athlete, I was always like, do you notice how you move this way and it feels funny in your body? And I definitely had a hard time because I was in coach mode as a kid with
Mhm.
other players on my team, and they
Mhm.
really hated that. So
You were just beyond your years in terms of processing that, right? Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And from a social aspect, again, Brainiac didn't have a whole lot of social skills to speak
Yeah.
of at that time, so I didn't know that what I was doing was unacceptable. I was just
Yeah.
trying to be helpful.
I can relate to that as just a fellow intuitive too, just as you're kind of evolving in that skill set and understanding it really is the first part,
Yeah.
but just being aware of and even looking back, sometimes I can see, like, moments in my life where I'm, like, cringeworthy,
Yeah.
where, I said something and almost, like, sometimes some of that stuff comes out of your mouth and you don't even process it. I know you can relate to that, and then you're realizing, "Oh gosh," having that social construct around it is also very important when you're developing your intuition,
Oh
right?
my gosh, yes. And
Yeah.
then, getting to a point in my life where it was in a just an unbelievable amount of pain, and I couldn't understand why, and I knew I could feel other people's pain. I was one of those people, and yet I couldn't discern whether it was mine or theirs,
Interesting,
and
yeah.
I ended up finding a teacher, Cable Jones, who really, really gave me some tool to understand how to discern. And, the basic
Mhm.
tools like understanding grounding and understanding how to tend to your own energetic bubble. And
Yeah.
he called it shielding, which is a very masculine way to think about
Mhm.
it. And then Melissa Seaman was like, no, no, let's think about it as a bubble. And I was like, oh, that's so much lighter and easier to work with.
Yeah, I struggle with that too, actually, that concept of shielding or protecting. And I spoke to, when I was trying to also kind of hone that in a little bit and understand it, I saw the need for it for sure, but I also felt like, well, how do you create that so that you are also not creating a barrier around, the ability to intuit.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the things that I've always taken on is we don't put on a good piece of advice that I got from a teacher really was we just don't put ourselves into that mode of fear, and we step upon it and keep our vibration high in respect to that. So it's almost as if not that you're ignoring it, but that it's not on the plane that you're in kind of
Yep.
deal, which I thought was an interesting perspective on it as well.
I love that. The concept that we use is everything in its highest good. So
Mhm.
if it's in their highest good and my highest good to have a conversation around something that's going on for another person, then it
Absolutely.
will show itself in the opportunity to have the conversation or the messages keep coming through and bombarding me. So I'm like, oh, okay, I gotta tell you.
Yeah. Right.
So those are
Yes.
kind of the intuitive hits that I now use so that I know anything that's coming out of my mouth is for the highest good, in the highest good for the person or people receiving the information.
Again, so fascinated by your story and your personal evolution and journey in this. So tell me how, like, I want to get into the psychology a little bit more too, because I think this is actually very relevant for a lot of people out there that are looking at their health situation, a current health situation, starting to ponder or well into the journey of even being in action with trying to create a different outcome from themselves. And let's start with just the recognition that without health you have nothing, right? So
Yes.
we're coming from a viewpoint of Amanda and I are almost, it's not even like it's just a part of us that every day we do something for our health, whether that be a monumental, workout exercise situation or a treatment, or sometimes on my simplest days, and I know yours too, Amanda, we're swallowing, 5 or 6 pills in the morning. That means my pills, I mean supplements, and then, doing the same in the evening, and that might be the amount of self-care we get in on that particular day, that particularly highly scheduled day or whatnot, right?
Mhm.
So for us, it's like a part of us now that it's a given that, and we've seen this play out in our own personal lives, that without our health, we have nothing, right? That
Oh, yeah.
that accident is kind of where we both come from.
Absolutely.
But your story is like, and this is what I'm so fascinated by is here you are highly educated and you move into a very science engineering based position career. I know that when I met you originally, was it 16 years ago, I know you were in a transition point and I was in a transition point. I was leaving corporate, you were kind of leaving corporate too. We were
Mhm.
both kind of like answering the call at the same time and being willing to step up or step into the ideas and notions that people had about us or what they would think about us. I mean, those are really vulnerable times, I know for me. I'm sure you had your own experience.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was on Artemis, actually. I was on NASA's Artemis program. At that time, it was called Orion, and,
Okay.
that's when we met in 2009. I
Mhm.
was I was actually early career at that point,
Okay.
and I was contemplating a lot of things. I was contemplating like, I had noticed in the so I started on Artemis in 2007. So just
Mhm.
2 years in, and I started noticing my body starting to fail me, and I was going,
Yeah.
"Alright, something's not right." And then, of course, at yoga teacher training, I discovered I had every allergy in the book, which led to the diagnosis of a leaky gut, and then that led
Mhm.
to a whole bunch of healing with an Ayurvedic MD, Dr. Nita Desai, and
Mhm.
that was a rabbit hole as well, but it was just this recognition that I'm using my brain on a daily basis and not having any capacity for my body, and I was an athlete up to that
Mhm.
point, right? I
Mhm.
at this point, I was a Division I softball player turned Division II softball player. I played volleyball, basketball, track, football, snowboarding, ice climbing. I was doing all the things,
Mhm.
and I didn't have the capacity to do very much. So like when we went into yoga teacher training, I laid on the floor a lot. I took in the information by moving my brain and not my body because my body was just so damn exhausted.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of the turning point for me. I didn't
Hmm.
leave aerospace until 2017. So it took
Okay.
me a while to get the
Yeah.
message, like, this isn't what you need from a mind, body, spirit, soul perspective. It took
Right.
it took a minute, but when I
Mhm.
finally got there, the recognition that I have to do something to take care of myself on a daily basis. From a health perspective, I was gifted a lot of
Hmm.
medical challenges from
Yeah.
my family, from a
Okay.
hereditary perspective.
Are you tired of treatments, protocols, and gurus who promise results but don't deliver? You're not alone. For years, I struggled with my own long term illness, and I know how frustrating it feels when nothing seems to work. That's why I developed the Resiliency Method. It's a science backed approach to combining the best of Western and ancient medicines to restore your body's natural intelligence. Patient after patient has discovered what's possible, living stronger, brighter, and more spiritually connected than ever before. Whether you're facing autoimmune issues, hormonal imbalances, weight struggles, or just feeling stuck, you don't need another quick fix. You need a clear path forward. Take the first step with a discovery call at drerikaonline.com/discovery. That's DRERIKA online.com/discovery. Or dive deeper with a full initial consultation at drerikaonline.com/initial-consultation, because your health, your clarity, and your freedom cannot wait. I think almost that's a prerequisite for a healer, their
I
own
feel like that too.
journey. I always
Right?
tell my patients, I'm like, I'm the most difficult case I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was what Dr. Nita Desai said to me at one point when she got my, allergy stuff back. So we did a blood test stool sample and that was like 215 allergens, and I was allergic to 175, and she came back to me like, "You're somebody's PhD dissertation because you're so complex." And I
Yeah.
was just like, "That's the winning at the worst things, hard pass."
Right. Right. Right.
So,
Yeah. I
yeah,
wanna go even to just like just I know that you've had your ups and downs in the process of finding your healing, getting your healing on the right track, trial
mhm,
by error. You
yeah,
have a way for somebody to actually analyze maybe where they're coming in from, their viewpoint, and the way they're consuming healthcare. Is that fair? Good description?
absolutely, yeah. So the Gutsy Chick Quiz, gutsychickquiz.com is where you can find it. There's 4 archetypes that I use to understand how my clients come to me in where they're getting stuck, but also how they consume as a medical consumer. So it's the Bruiser, which is what I am, the
Okay.
Brainster, which is my
Okay.
secondary, the
Okay.
Chillster, and the Stickler. So we can dive
Okay.
into how those relate to what you've witnessed too, as far as the consuming of medical information or even going to the doctor.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, I think it's interesting in the context of looking at this because this is a point where this is not to be like minimized, I guess, because anywhere where you're starting from on a healing journey, and you can start from anywhere. The bottom line is you got to start, right? You got to put one
Mhm,
foot in front of the other. So there's no judgment or evaluation, but it's interesting to frame these things because I've also seen where certain archetypes and the way that they're assigned to medical information could sometimes lead to a outcome and an outcome and how quickly really ultimately you can get to an outcome.
mhm,
And where I'm going with this is both, you and I do root cause type of medicine work. And I
okay,
know that's a totally horribly overplayed term. But when it comes to what we mean by that, it's really looking at the body from a lens of one, it's very individualistic. So everybody has their
mhm,
own genetic blueprint, that we all have different patterns or scenarios that are contributing to the physiological imbalances in our body. And those also correlate with spiritual and emotional imbalances. And then also looking at the from the perspective of, a more individualized but also customized approach, which you and I only not only as consumers of our own health journeys have found the sweet spot, right? Fair
Yeah,
enough? Yeah.
absolutely, yes. Timing is part of this too. That so for me, I'm looking at the cosmic sensitive body. It's about what's the right timing for you too.
Interesting. Yeah, good. Yeah, absolutely. And we've both been on our own journeys and can speak from our own personal experience with having spun our wheels in different areas. I know I spent
Mhm.
10 years kind of going what I can see now very clearly since I've developed the resiliency method and two more phases of additional process for the body to go through to achieve optimal wellness, specifically for the nervous system and the brain. I can see now, look back and go, oh, I was kind of on the merry-go-round for about 10 years. And I got great results when I first got on the merry-go-round. And I was excited about it. And I did that work with my clients. But I can also see now where I lost some efficiency, I lost some time. And I know that you can probably appreciate that too from your own health journey.
Absolutely, yes. Similar to you, I've got the cosmic sensitive method, and realizing that each individual is coming from their own background, their own history, their own psychosocial issues, cultural issues, and timing. That right there sets the stage for really understanding how to move them to their goal, which almost all of my clients, and I'm sure all of your clients, the goal is let's be healthy. I want to be
Yeah.
able to have longevity and function when I'm in my 90s. That's
Mhm.
absolutely my goal is to get them
And
there.
how do we consolidate that time a little bit too by introducing different process or procedure? So to get back to the archetypes, we're talking about what would this archetype be for you in your context? This would be which archetype?
So the one who wants to heal and is willing to just dive in, that archetype.
Okay.
So for me, that one, well, it's kind of a combination. So that one would be definitely not be the Chillster. That would be
Okay.
either the Brainster or the Bruiser, but they've got to get to a certain point in their processing to finally
Okay.
dive in.
Got it. Got it. And one of the things I find interesting too around these different archetypes is that sometimes the hesitancy comes from cultural norms that are being expressed. So, for example, let's dive into the world of research for a second here. There's certain archetypes, people that are will not make a move on any sort of journey for their health unless a Western white coat allopathic medicine medical provider is available to provide them with that care, and then that there is some kind of perceived research, study, evidence-based medicine behind it, and they will not make a move on anything. What would you say are some of the shortfalls or pitfalls of that sort of viewpoint?
Oh, that's my stickler. Okay. So our Western medicine is designed as a business. It's designed to get you in and keep you there because they want to keep your money.
Good
They want
point.
to keep you in a place of I'm going to make you feel better, but I'm not going to heal you. And
Yeah.
when you talk to the doctors about that, that's obviously not their oath. That's not the goal, but the system is designed that way in Western medicine.
Yeah, their system man, then their tools, right? I always remind my patients, and listen, the medical doctor, best of intentions, doing the best he can with the knowledge that he has or she has. And then also, at the end of the day, though, the tool set for that person is a drug or surgery. So
Right.
every lens that they have upon your health and how your body works comes from which pharmaceutical medication fits here? Well, first of all, which label fits here? Because you
Yes.
don't have a label for something until you have a pharmaceutical drug. And I want to point that out. It's an important piece
Mhm.
of understanding healthcare is that the condition doesn't exist until there's a business or financial plan behind the drug that can actually bring to light that condition. And that's what
Mhm.
then correlates that medical terminology or that label that's given to that individual. So that's how
Mhm.
it kind of is a backwards system, right, in that
Yeah.
respect.
Yep.
And because there's not very many things in the Western viewpoint that don't have a solution. So, in other words, if there's no solution for it, we're really not talking about it.
Yes.
Fair?
Yes. So, like, IBS is one of those where it's, like, broad term, right? We know you have a
I,
gut issue, but we really can't pinpoint it because we would need to
yep.
dive deeper into what's going on, and we don't have time for that. That's the other thing about the Western model is there there are so many sick people now that doctors don't have enough time to be able to actually hear what's going on. You
Yeah,
have
they don't have the training either. They don't really have any nutritional science in medical school at all. I think it's like laughable the amount that they've had. But you're
yes,
right. That's a this the whole field of medical terminology. When you educate yourself in that respect, I call it the no diagnosis, which
right?
is an irritable bowel syndrome is a good example of that. You've got gastritis, and the word anything that ends in itis means inflammation from a Latin perspective.
Mhm.
And once you understand that, you see the word before it is really the descriptive where the inflammation is, but that's not really meaning anything. It's just a description that sometimes will correlate to a drug or a medical procedure that can be done, right? So,
Exactly, exactly.
yeah, and in that respect too, for that consumer, we're really talking about a somebody who's being informed by often typically evidence-based medicine or a placebo, a
Mhm,
controlled placebo-based study, which isn't bad, but
mhm.
that type of measurement really works well for drugs. It doesn't work well for what, like, you and I do, those more individualized approaches. Fair?
Very, very fair. It's it's very interesting to watch the evolution of this particular archetype too, to when they finally make it to me or you, they've tried everything in Western medicine, and they're going, "Well, shoot, nothing's worked there, so let's throw spaghetti at the wall and see
Mhm.
if this helps," and it's
Yes.
shocking to me that that's what it takes for this particular archetype, but at the same time, they wanna know that it's science-backed, and not everything is science-backed. Some things are indigenously backed, which science
Well,
hasn't caught up
yeah,
to yet.
or
Some things
generation. Absolutely.
yeah,
Thousands of years in my case of using ancient medicine, being trained in that background. So there's some efficacy from that standpoint. But
mhm,
yeah, I think it's also just coming from the viewpoint of really like, what does science mean to you?
mm,
Really drilling down. And that's one of the things we'll have in the show notes today, too, is the research guide that I give to patients or prospective patients to understand that and really start challenging some of the viewpoint that you're taking on taking action from medical science and what that can really mean and really starting to delve into that a little bit more deeply. Yeah.
love that. Absolutely love that.
Let's talk about the next archetype, which is somebody that maybe did have that experience, maybe spent 20, 30 years before they got to our next archetype. Tell me what you think of this person would be in your context, but I'm thinking like this is the individual that has some savvy to them. They do a lot of reading. They certainly have recognized their limitations with the Western allopathic medical model, and so now they're into the health hacking, supplement taking, that they follow the science that's related to the supplement that's gonna cure everything for them. Let's admit, there is always one. What's the one that's the most popular you think right now?
Man, what's the supplement that came out and really took hold during COVID? Ivermectin.
Well, that's not a supplement, that's actually a
No,
drug.
that's a drug. Yes, but they think because you can get your hands on it, it's not a supplement or it's not a drug, it's a supplement, and they treat it that way.
Well,
That was
true.
that's the
And it's
shocking thing.
lacking. Yes, and that's in particular, I actually do believe there's some efficacy in treating parasites, and I know you do too, because 'cause we've both
Yep,
done that. The challenges with that, right, from a medical standpoint, from a pharmaceutical standpoint, is when and Amanda, both her and I have gotten into the experience of rolling up our sleeves and working with clients in this capacity. You need a lot of extra monitoring and drainage support. Like it is frightening to me to think about, what a petroleum-based, a pharmaceutical, a chemical-based product is going to do and how it's going to more lack the things that are needed to kill off parasites. What are your impressions on that? Curious about your thoughts.
this is the Brainster, by the way, in Gutsy Chick land. This is the Brainster who's done all of the research, and they're coming at me with the research and going, "Okay, well, this is how it works." And when we have a chemical that our body isn't used to and it's being introduced, all of a sudden new pathways are being forced to work harder to move that
True.
thing through your system.
Yes.
And it's introducing new issues generally
Absolutely. Yeah.
without, and you know this, but for the audience, if we don't have clear drainage, we don't have pathways that are actually flowing and moving things, that sucker's going to get stuck in there.
Yeah.
And having something that's petroleum based, especially, our body doesn't understand that one and it doesn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, and I will say I think the idea is right there. I like that this is getting attention from a standpoint of people need to understand how you know, rampant this is where we people have parasite issues. And I think the reason it works so well for quite frankly for COVID, this is my theory on it, is people have parasite issues in our community and they don't think they first of all, it's very dismissed by the Western allopathic model. But two, I think the reason why it helped with COVID is really the fact that it took that burden down to some extent and
Mhm.
allowed their immune system to actually do better with the virus itself. And that's my theory on it, my personal theory on it, because I really think that that's where some of that those good results are coming from. So I in one respect, I'm like, well, better than nothing. But
Yes.
yes, when it comes to looking at that from a standpoint of, yeah, whole foods,
Mhm.
herbs, your body knows what to do with those items themselves. The petroleum-based stuff, like I agree with you, it creates another pathway for which the body needs to deal with the byproducts of that,
Yep.
which can be counterproductive or be create a more of a complexity. So that's something to really definitely pay attention to. Yeah,
Yep.
what's another the scenario of that biohacker individual, it's sort of like almost still like there's this one size fits all kind of like magic pill thing, that sort of psychology behind that, or a hacking device. Sometimes it pulls up push over into the biohacking field where it's like, "Oh, if I just do this one thing." I'll just even point out too, we as natural health providers tend to overemphasize, I think, diet and exercise in that way too. Like the only way thing you need really to achieve better health is more exercise and the
Mm.
most perfect diet. What are your thoughts on that?
The right exercise and the right diet. I feel
Mhm.
like those are 2 things that get dismissed. Like, everybody thinks, "Oh, if I just eat whole foods like the doctors say, because 'cause we've got a new pyramid to look at." Uh,
We have a new diet every other year. I mean, we are
yes,
starting people are starting to the public's burning out on keto. They went to carnivore. I think that had an even shorter life cycle than keto.
because
But
it's
these are all
unsustainable.
very unsustainable and extreme diets, not saying there's efficacy in not doing any of them for a short period of time. There's clear benefit to some of these things, but we gotta look big picture, and we gotta look
Absolutely.
long term, and we have to go back to those studies, right, on that magic supplement or that magic pill or that magic diet, and go back and say, "Okay, well, what's happening 6, 8, 10, 12 months later," right?
Right. Is it sustainable? And if it's not sustainable, then how can we influence things so that it has a flavor of what you're working on later? That's one of the things that I look at when it comes to my clients. But when it comes to these things, it's those things are boring. They're not sexy. They're not like, "Oh my gosh." And they're not
Mhm.
instantaneous fixes, which a lot of people are looking for the quick fix because that's what the pharmaceutical world does for us is the quick
Yeah,
fix.
very
When
good
really
point.
it's not a quick fix, it's a quick Band-Aid.
Mhm.
The the not sexy things are stress regulation, eating for you, eating right for you, exercising right for you, and there's guidance around that. If we're looking at just the guidelines that the FDA is putting out for us, then we're missing what our body specifically needs, what our
Right.
mind specifically needs, and what we're really drawn to.
Yeah,
right?
well, I'm pleased to see the changes that are being implemented, but it's still broad strokes. I agree with you.
Yes.
Everything is broad strokes, and let's like end our conversation too, just kind of talking about the benefit and that power that you get from taking on that. Maybe your health requires not only the recognition, excuse me, that the nuances of your body, but also how working with the right coach to help you through that process and navigate that. Tell me more about your thoughts on that.
It takes a village. I think that's one of the things that we're finally coming back to when it comes to childcare, which is fabulous. It takes a village. We're not trying to do it all on our own anymore.
Mhm.
It's the same when it comes to our health. It it takes a strength and conditioning coach. It takes a nutritionist. It takes a doctor that understands where your body really needs to be tweaked and moved through and making it long term. Having a therapist or someone to talk to if necessary about
Yeah,
your past or your present or the
right.
fear of the future. That's where multiple coaches come in. I mean, I have a business coach and a strength and conditioning coach and some a strength and conditioning coach that can get me out of pain very quickly. And all of these
Yeah,
things are what make it possible for me to do the work that I do with my clients every day and to show up for my family every day. It takes a
yeah,
village.
it does. True. That's a great point. And also, I think too, tell me if you agree with this, there's also this important piece, which is we have to have a strategy. Like, look at
Mm,
all the things. And I'm particularly talking to, I think, a lot of men out there too. And I don't mean to be, categorical about that, but I work, and I know you too, work with a lot of females who really, it's almost like intuitive that they would work on their health. And maybe it also is partly there's a little bit more complexity with the female body. But my men out there, it's like, you got to look around, my friend. You have a strategy for your finances. You even have a strategy for your vehicle. You take it in, you get its service, you get oil changes and such. What makes you think you can shortcut this human body that you're living in and you're expending your source energy from, and from which every other element of your life, the success stands on that aspect, right?
totally. Yes. You're making me think about my strength and conditioning coach, Ian. I went to him a couple months back in November, right around my birthday, and I was like, "All right, so here's what's happening, and I really don't have a great strategy. I've got, here's the program that I'm working with." And he was like, "Y- With the goals that you have, you really need someone to build a strategy for you." And I was just like, dang, you're right. Because exactly like what you said, I have a strategy for my food. I have a strategy for, you know, the things that I need to take care of in a day. I have a strategy for my business. Why don't I have a strategy for my lifting routine that
Mhm.
actually works for me on an individual level instead of that broad stroke? Like, here's what this person is programming for all women across the nation.
Absolutely. And let's talk about AI, because a lot of people are starting to, we'll end on this
Ooh.
note. I know we've got a time limit here, but AI, probably worth mentioning too, because I think I'm seeing a lot of a trend towards people wanting to go and find their health information and their health coaching through artificial intelligence. What are your thoughts on that? What have you seen?
No, ChatGPT has a great commercial about that right now. When it
How
comes
does
to using a large language model like ChatGPT to get your health information, you've got to ask very good questions. And most people don't have enough information to ask
right?
really good questions. They need to
Exactly.
go and consult someone else who knows how to ask really good questions to get
Mhm.
the finite information that you're looking for when it comes to ChatGPT, large language model, AI.
Absolutely. It's regurgitation, right? What's out there in the public sphere, it's really a regurgitation, and I'm seeing too in some respects when I research certain, areas, it's not just regurgitation, it's also a bit of the narrative, the collective narrative that we wanna agree is the truth.
There
Yeah,
we
or
go.
some people wanna agree is the truth, I should say.
Yes.
So,
Well,
yeah.
if you're using ChatGPT a lot, it wants to agree with you also. It
Mhm.
wants you to feel good.
Yeah.
so that you come back and use it. It's very much like the Western medical model where once you're in, you're just going to keep using it.
Absolutely.
Same with AI. So this is I if you're looking for, you know, what's a really good question? I want to know what kind of macros I should be consuming on a day-to-day basis. If you just broad stroke ask that question, ChatGPT is going to come back at you because I actually experimented with this.
Mhm.
It's going to come back at you and ask your height, your weight, your goals. It's not taking into consideration your stress level, your sleep, your your day-to-day routine and what
Right.
works for you on a daily basis. It's again just broad stroke going to use the data that you feed it. You
Mhm.
have to it's better to talk to a nutritionist or someone who really understands how when you put food in your body, how your nervous system is going to respond to that particular piece of food. And
Absolutely.
yeah, there's so many little nuances that aren't being taken into account when you're plugging something like that into ChatGPT and saying, "I need to know what macros I want, and this is my goal." And most people are coming at that from, "I have a goal weight that I want to get to, whether that's up or down." But that's what ChatGPT uses to calculate your macros, and really you need a nutritionist eyeballs on that information and a conversation because again, ChatGPT doesn't really know you. They know the information you plugged in, and that's all.
Absolutely. Amanda, thank you so much. This has been an awesome conversation with you today. I love your health story, your journey. It's just so unique. Thank you for sharing it with us. Anything else you want to say about show it's what we can find in the show notes?
Gutsychickquiz.com is a great place to start. Bodywhisperhealing.com is my website where you can find out more about me. I have the Cosmic Body Shenanigans podcast. If you want to hear me talk about all these fun things, head over
Awesome.
to wherever you listen to podcasts or on YouTube.
I love it. I know I've been on a couple of your podcasts too, so that's fun.
Yeah.
And also in the show notes too for the podcast today, we will also leave that research guide for you. Thank you so much for joining us, Amanda. Thank you so much for listening to you listeners. And we will have Amanda back in future episodes.
Hey, thank you, Erica.
Thanks for tuning into the Resiliency Method, the Truth About Healing podcast. If this episode spoke to you, follow, share, and leave us a review. Are you ready to go deeper? Book your discovery call now at drerikaonline.com/discovery and take your first step today.